Amud Yomi. This is not the Daf Yomi, but the Amud Yomi. Daf is two sides, A and B, and Amud is what's known as just one side. And this is the Amud Yomi for today, is in Tractate Sanhedrin B, 93b. And the new idea starts in the bottom of 93a, so I'll start with that. Amar Rabbi Tanchum. Rabbi Tanchum says, Chadash bar kapara b'tzipoiri, mai dichsiv, shesh ha'se'oirim ha'ele natan li, mai shesh ha'se'oirim, ile me shesh ha'se'oirim mamesh, chidako shel boaz yitenu matana shesh ha'se'oirim. Okay. Apropos, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, the Gemara cites that which Rabbi Tanchum says. Apparently they were talking about these three from the book of Daniel. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The Gemara cites that which Rabbi Tanchum says, that Bar Kapara taught in Sipori. What is the meaning of that which is written with regard to the statement of Ruth to Naomi concerning Boaz? These 6 grains of barley he gave me. Ruth 3:17. What is the meaning? Oh, just as a side point, it's in Ruth 3:17, and there are 317 tekus in the Babylonian Talmud. Just interesting to know. Maybe there's a connection between those two. Teku is an unresolved, unanswered question. Now, it might be more than that, because there's many questions within one teku sometimes. But there's 317 appearances of the word teku, according to the book by Rabbi Aharon, Yehoshua Pessin, called teku. Okay, what is the meaning of the phrase 6 grains of barley? If we say that the reference is to 6 actual grains of barley, is it the typical manner of Boaz to give a minimal gift of 6 grains of barley? And now we turn to Sanhedrin 93b, our Amud of today. Ela shesh se'in. Rather, he gave her 6 se'ah, which is a lot more. That's a huge amount. Okay, v'chi darka shel ish litol shesh se'in. Ela remez ramazla. Shatidin shisha banim letzet mimena shemit b'alchim b'shesh brachos. Ve'elu hein David Umashiach, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. David dichtiv, Vaya'an echad mehana'arim vayomer, hine ra'iti ben Yishai beit halachmi. Yodea nagem b'gibor chayil v'ish milchama unevon devar, v'ish to'a v'Hashem imo. The Gemara asks, and is it the typical manner of a woman to take a heavy burden of 6 se'ah of barley? So we were saying that when Boaz gave Ruth 6 grains of barley, Rabbi Tanchum was explaining that, I think it was Rabbi Tanchum, said that Bar Kapara taught that it was actually 6 se'ah, which is a lot more. So the Gemara asks, is it a typical manner of a woman to take such a heavy burden of 6 se'ah of barley? So it doesn't say whether she took it or not, but it just says that these alluded to something. Maybe she didn't take it, maybe she left it there, or maybe he just pointed it out to her. Okay, rather Boaz alluded to Ruth that 6 descendants are destined to emerge from her, who would each be blessed with 6 blessings. with 6 blessings. Okay. Boaz alluded to Ruth that 6 descendants are destined to emerge from her, who would each be blessed with 6 blessings. And these are they: David and the Messiah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The Gemara elaborates, David was blessed with 6 virtues, as it is written, and one of the servants answered and said, Behold, I have seen a son of Yishai in the house of Bethlehem, who knows to play, and is a fine warrior, and a man of war, and prudent in speech, and a comely man, and the Lord is with him. 1 Samuel 16:18. ואמר רב יהודה מרב, כל הפסוק הזה לא עמוד דואג אלא בלשון הוי. יודע נגן שיודע להישאל, גיבור שיודע להשיב, איש מלחמה שיודע לישא, פדיתם במלחמתה של תורה, איש תואר שמראה פנים בהלוכה, ונבון דבר שמבין דבר תוך דבר, והשם עם משה, הלכה כמויס בכל מקום. Rabbi Yehuda says that Rav says, Doeg the Edomite, one of Saul's servants, stated this entire verse only as malicious speech in an attempt to incite Saul to be jealous of David. Apparently it worked, because... Okay. Who knows how to play means he knows how to ask complex and germane questions about Torah matters. A fine warrior means that he knows how to answer questions raised with regard to matters of Torah. A man of war means that he knows to negotiate his way in the battle to understand the Torah. A comely man is one who displays understanding in facets of halacha and explains it well. And prudent in speech. Devar means that he infers one matter from another matter. And the Lord is with him means that the halacha is ruled in accordance with his opinion in every area of halacha. V'yechuluhu amar lehu Yonatan beni kamohu kevon yamar le v'Hashem imo milita dividide nami lo havibe chalashtai tivikani be diva Shaul kativ u'chol asher yifne Yehoshua u'David kativ u'chol asher yifne yatzliach. The Gemara relates in response to all these virtues listed in praise of David. Saul said to his servants, my son Jonathan is his equal. Once Doeg said to Saul, and the Lord is with him, meaning that the halacha is ruled in accordance with his opinion in every area of halacha. A matter that did not apply even to Saul himself, and he was offended and grew jealous of David. As with regard to Saul, it is written, and wherever he turned, he put them to the worse. 1 Samuel 14:47. With regard to David, it is written, and wherever he turns, he does prosper. Although the verse about Saul is referring to his victories and his prominence in Torah, he was not privileged to have all of his conclusions accepted as haloche. Mina landi doig have ketiv hacha v'ya'an echad mehane'arim miyuchad shebehane'arim uketiv hasam v'shem ish me'avdei Shaul b'yomahu netzar Hashem u'shemo doeg ha'adomi abir haroim asher Shaul. The Gemara asks, from where do you derive that it was Doeg who listed the virtues in this verse? The Gemara answers that it is written here, and one of the servants, answered, meaning the most notable of the servants. And it is written there, and a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of the herdsmen that belonged to Saul. 1 Samuel 21 verse 8. Mashiach Dichsev, the Messiah was blessed with 6 virtues, as it is written, V'nacha alav, Ruach Hashem, Ruach Chachma Ubina, Ruach Eitzah Ugvura, Ruach Das, V'yiras Hashem. 6 virtues. So it's Chachma, Bina, Eitzah, Gevura, Das, and Yiras Hashem. These are 6 attributes of the Messiah. It's a reference to the Messiah. Okay, where were we? We were holding by right the Mashiach, but it says in Isaiah 11 verse 2. Okay, it says, oh, I forgot the last thing. Uchsiv v'haricho b'yiras Hashem. Okay. The Messiah was blessed with 6 virtues, as it is written, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. Isaiah 11 verse 2. And it is written, and his delight, v'haricho, shall be with the fear of the Lord, and he shall neither judge after the sight of his eyes, nor decide after the hearing of his ears. Okay, Isaiah 11:3. Amar Rab Alexandri, Melamed Shiatino Mitzvot Vesuim Kerechaim, Rav Amar Demorach, V'da'en, V'dichtiv V'lo Mare Einav Yishpot, V'shafat B'tzedek Dalim V'ochiach, B'misho L'anvei Oretz. Rabbi Alexandri says that the term Baharicho teaches that God burdened the Messiah with mitzvot and afflictions like millstones. Interesting. Hatinot, like ta'an means like to load them up. Ta'an. Or it could also be like taina, I think. Is that possible? They translated burdened here. Okay. Rabbi Alexandri says that the term Haricho means that God burdened the Messiah with mitzvot and afflictions like millstones, richaim. Rava says that Haricho teaches that the Messiah will smell and then judge on that basis, sensing who is right. As it is written, and he shall neither judge after the sight of his eyes, nor decide after the hearing of his ears, and with righteousness shall he judge the poor and decide equity for the meek of the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. Yeah? As I state, the meek of the earth. Isaiah 11:3-4. Bar koziva malach tartin shtinu palga. Amar lehu leRabanan ana Mashiach. Amar le b'Mashiach ketiv demorach v'da'in. Demorach v'doin. Nech ze'anani morach v'doin. Kevan chaziyuha delo morach v'dain katlu. The Gemara relates that Bar Koziva, this is actually Bar Kochba, ruled for 2.5 years. He said to the sages, I am the Messiah, Ana Mashiach. They said to him, with regard to the Messiah, it is written that he is able to smell and judge. Let us see ourselves whether he, Bar Kochba, is able to smell and judge. Once they saw that he was not able to smell and judge, the Gentiles killed him. Now here's the question that comes to my mind. Didn't Rabbi Akiva think that Bar Kochba was the Messiah? Didn't he know this verse as well? Why was he duped and the rabbis were not? It's a question. Okay. Daniel, Chanan, Mishael, Azariah, Dichtiv Behu. Daniel. Chanan, Mishael, Azariah, Dichtiv Behu, Asher Ein Bahem Mum, B'tov Mare, Maskilim B'chol Chochma, V'yedeas Das, U'binei Mada, V'asher Koach Bahem, La'amod B'eichal HaMelech U'lelamdam Sefer, U'leshon Kazdim. 6 virtues were ascribed to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, as it is written in their regard, youths in whom was found no blemish, well-favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and discerning in knowledge, and perceptive in understanding, and who had strength in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Daniel 1:4. Mai asher ein bahem kol mum. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Chananya. Afilu krim da nechus tilta. Lo havi behu. Mai va'asher koach bahem la'amod b'eichal hamelech. Amar Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina. Melamed shayon sines atman min hasichot. ומנסיך ומנשנו, ומעמידין על עצמם בשעה שנצרכים לנקביהם, מפני אמס המלכוס, אמס מלכוס. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the phrase, in whom was found no blemish? Rechama Barchan, it says Chananya here, but in English it translates Chaninas, but I'll just go to the Hebrew, Chananya. Rechama Bar Chananya says, even a scratch like the wound that remains after bloodletting was not found in them. Okay, what is the meaning of the phrase, and who had strengthened them to stand in the king's place? What strength is needed to do so? Rechama, the son of Rabbi Hananiah, says, this teaches that they would force themselves to refrain from laughter and from conversation and from sleep, and would restrain themselves when they felt the urge to relieve themselves. Okay. Due to fear of the monarchy. Vayhi b'ayam b'bnei Yehuda, Daniel Hananiah, Mishael Azariah, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, כולם מבני יהודה הם, ורבי שמואל בר נחמני אמר, דניאל מבני יהודה, חנני מישאל ועזריה משאר השבטים. Okay, interesting. We have machlokes over here between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. Rabbi Eliezer says that they came from Judah. Okay. And apparently what's his name? Bar Kapara held the same way, because he's the one that made that statement that 6 descendants would come from Ruth. But okay, Mishar. Okay, so the Gemara explores more of their attributes. Verse states, now among these were the descendants of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah. Daniel 1:6. Eliezer says they were all the descendants of Judah, and Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says Daniel was of the descendants of Judah, and Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were descendants of other tribes. ומבניך אשר יצאו ממך באשר תוליד ייקחו בהם סריסים והיכל. מלך בבל, מה סריסים? רב אמר סריסים ממש, וחנין אמר שנסתר זו עבודה זרה ממהם. Okay, Isaiah prophesied to Hezekiah, and of your sons that shall issue from you, they shall be taken away, and they shall be officers, Sarisim, in the palace of the king of Babylonia. Isaiah 39, verse 7. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of Sarisim? Rav says it means literal eunuchs. It means that the Babylonians castrated them to render them suitable for employment in all aspects of the king's service. And Rabbi Chanina says it means that idol worship was sort of cut out during their lifetime, because it became clear to all that it lacked substance. Sarisim, so maybe they were take. Wow. בשלום למען דרבן שנסתר סבוי לזרים בהם, היינו דכתיב וחבל לא הייתי בהון, למען דרבן שנסתר ממש, מאי וחבל לא הייתי בהון, חבלה דנורה, וכתיב ריח נור לא הדת בהון, לא חבלה ולא ריחה. The Gemara asks, granted, according to one who says that idol worship was emasculated during their lifetime, that is, as it is written, and they have no hurt, Daniel 3:25, indicating that the bodies of Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were intact, and they were not castrated. He also defied the idolatry. So that would also, they actually emasculated Nebuchadnezzar's idolatry, because they didn't bow down, nothing happened to them. So they figuratively castrated Nebuchadnezzar, the strength of his idol. That makes sense, actually. But according to the one who says that they were literally eunuchs, what is the meaning of the phrase, and they have no hurt? The Gemara answers, it means that they had no hurt from the fire of the furnace, not that their bodies were completely intact. The Gemara asks, but isn't it already written, nor had the odor of fire passed over them? Daniel 3:27. There was no need to repeat that they were unaffected by the fire, because it already said no odor of the fire passed over them. The Gemara answers, this means that they were neither hurt from the fire nor harm from the odor of the fire. Okay. The Gemara asks, grants according to the one who says that idol worship was emasculated during their lifetime. That is, as it is written, for so says the Lord to the Sarisim who observe my Shabbatot, and choose what pleases me, and keep my Sabbath. Isaiah 56 verse 4. This verse calls them Sarisim due to their miraculous deliverance from the furnace. But according to the one who says that they were literally eunuchs, would the verse speak in denigration of the righteous? Would the verse identify Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah by their blemish rather than their names? The Gemara answers, according to the one who says that they were literally eunuchs, both this, the physical imperfection, and the fact that idol worship was emasculated in their lifetime, were true concerning them. So I guess everyone holds that they were literal eunuchs. So what are they arguing about? They're not really arguing. Okay. היינו דכסיב בביתי בכל מסעיה ושם טוב מבנים ומבנות אלא מאן דאמר שנסתלסה ונזרוי מהם מה טוב מבנים ומבנות אבל אנחנו יצחק מבנים שהיו להם כבר ומסו מה שם אוי למתן לו אשר לא יקרס אמר בתנחום דרש בר כפרה וציפורי זה הספר דניאל שנקרא על שמו. The Gemara asks from another perspective, granted according to the one who says that they were literal eunuchs, that is, as is written in the next verse, and to them I will give my house, and within my walls a memorial better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be excised. Isaiah 56 verse 5. So we see that there's a connection between physical offspring, which cannot happen with an actual eunuch. So then it would make sense if you really hold it's a real eunuch, because it says that it's implied they won't have sons and daughters, and that would be true by a literal eunuch. But according to the one who says that idol worship was emasculated in their lifetime, what's the meaning of better than sons and daughters? It doesn't seem to be connecting here. Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak says it is consolation concerning children they already had and who died. So Reb Nachman Bar Yitzchak wants to suggest that these Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah already had children before they were taken away, and they died. How do we know that? That would also be that they would also be memorialized. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the phrase "an everlasting name that shall not be excised"? Tanchum says that Bar Kapara taught in Sipori. This is referring to the book of Daniel, which is called by his name. Mechti. Let's see. Kol mili de Ezra Nehemiah ben Chachaliah Amrinu Nehemiah ben Chachaliah My time lo yikriv sifra shemei Amr b'yom baraba mipnei shechzik tova li atzmo shneimar zachra li Elohai letova David nami meimar Amar zachrini Hashem b'ratzon amecha bagdeni b'shvatecha David rachamehu kamabai. Apropos books of the Bible named for a prominent person, the Gemara asks. Now with regard to all the matters of the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah, and said them and wrote most of them. And with regard to Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah, what is the reason that a book is not called by his name? But there is. Maybe this is before Nehemiah came out. Over the course of many generations, extending many years after the Talmudic period, the book that is today named for Nehemiah was not a separate book. It was actually Ezra. So there was no Nehemiah back in those days. The Nehemiah we have today is actually part of Ezra. So they're asking, why does he have a book of his own name? It was not a separate book that was included. It was included in the book of Ezra. Yomi Bar Abba says the book was not named for Nehemiah because he took credit for himself and boasted about his good deeds. As it is stated, remember me, O God, for good. Nehemiah 13:31. Well, that doesn't jive with Rabbi Yomi bar Abba because he has a book after his name now, so that doesn't work for him. He eventually would get a book in his name. So why are you saying that he took credit for himself? Okay. The Gemara asks, is that a shortcoming? King David also said, remember me, Lord, when you show favor to your people. Visit me with your salvation. Psalms 106 verse 4. The Gemara answers, David was asking for compassion and formulated his words as a prayer. Nehemiah stated them as a fact and a demand. But again, Nehemiah has a book after his name right now. So this is obviously not the reason. Rav Yosef Omar, מפני שסיפר בגנוסן של ראשונים, שנאמר בפרחס הראשונים אשר לפני וכיבידו על העם, ויקחו מהם בלחם ויין, אחר כסף שקלים 40 בגוימה, ואף על דניאל שגדול ממנו סיפר. Rav Yosef says, Nehemiah was punished because he spoke in denigration of his predecessors, as it is stated, but the former governors who were before me placed burdens upon the people and took from them for bread and wine beyond 40 shekels of silver. Even their servants ruled over the people, but I did not do so due to the fear of God. Nehemiah 5:15. And he related these disparaging statements even about Daniel, who was greater than he was. How do we know that he was greater than Daniel? תכסיב ראיסי אני דניאל לבדי סמריה ואנשים אשר היו עמי לא יראו את סמריה אבל חרדה גדולה נפלה עליהם ויברחו בה היחווה ואנשים אשר היו עמי לא ראו את המראה ומנינו אנשים אמר רבי ירמיה ואיתמה רבי חייא בר אבא זכריה ומלאכי. The Gemara asks, from where do we derive that Daniel was greater than he was? The Gemara answers, it was derived from a verse, as it is written, and I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. And the men who were with me did not see the vision, but a great trembling fell upon them, and they fled to hide. Daniel 10, verse 7. The Gemara asks, and the men who were with me did not see the vision. And who were these men? Rabbi Yirmiyah, and some say it was Rabbi Chiya bar Abba says, that is referring to Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, who were with him and did not see. Evidently Daniel was greater than these prophets, and all the more so he was greater than Nehemiah, who was never privileged to prophesy. But he still has a book after his name.